Every avoidant ex wants you to do this after they reject you. Have you ever wondered why an avoidant ex pushes you away, but secretly watches what you do after they reject you? The confusing truth is that many avoidant partners create distance, but they do not always erase the emotional bond they once shared. They may walk away physically, yet a part of them continues processing the connection they experienced with you. When they reject you, they often expect a familiar reaction because their past experiences shaped what they believe will happen next. They may expect you to chase them, ask for another chance, or try harder to prove your love. But what many avoidant exes secretly want after rejecting you is not endless attention or emotional pressure. They want to see whether you can handle rejection without losing your emotional balance and self-respect. This reaction surprises them because it creates a completely different emotional experience than the one they expected. Avoidant individuals often struggle when emotions become intense because closeness can activate fears they have learned to protect themselves from. They may confuse emotional intimacy with losing freedom, independence, or control over their personal space. So when the relationship begins feeling deeper, their instinct may be to create distance instead of moving closer. Their rejection is sometimes not because they stopped caring, but because emotional vulnerability feels uncomfortable and unfamiliar. However, when you immediately chase after them, you may accidentally reinforce the very fears that cause them to pull away. They may begin feeling responsible for your emotional state, which creates more pressure and makes them retreat further. This is why your response after rejection can completely change the emotional dynamic between you and an avoidant ex. When you calmly accept their decision and step back, you create something they rarely experience during emotional conflict. You create emotional space without anger, punishment, or attempts to control their choices. That peaceful distance can make them start thinking about the relationship from a different perspective. Instead of remembering only the moments that felt overwhelming, they may begin remembering the comfort and connection you provided. They may start wondering why you are no longer trying to convince them to stay. They may question why your confidence remains strong even after they created separation between you. This is often where curiosity begins, because humans naturally notice changes in emotional patterns. When someone who once chased you stops chasing, the absence of that attention becomes noticeable. Your silence becomes a reflection that allows them to see their own emotions more clearly. But this does not mean you should use silence as a strategy to manipulate their feelings. The purpose of stepping back is not to make them suffer or force them to return. The purpose is to protect your emotional health and allow both people to experience reality without pressure. Many people make the mistake of believing that more love will fix an avoidant person's fears. They think if they explain more, give more, and prove more, the avoidant partner will finally understand their value. But love cannot force someone to heal patterns they are not ready to confront. Emotional growth happens when a person chooses self-awareness, responsibility, and honesty with themselves. Your role is not to convince someone that you deserve love because your value already exists. When you stop fighting for someone who chose distance, you begin reconnecting with yourself. You start rebuilding the confidence that may have been weakened by uncertainty and emotional confusion. You remember that your identity is much bigger than one person's ability to choose you. This inner transformation is often the part that avoidant exes notice the most. They may have expected you to remain stuck, waiting, and emotionally dependent on their return. Instead, they see someone who is becoming stronger, calmer, and more secure. That emotional stability can create a new level of respect because confidence feels safer than desperation. Avoidant people often fear relationships where they feel trapped, but they can appreciate relationships where both people remain individuals. A secure partner communicates love while also maintaining boundaries and personal strength. This balance can feel different because it removes the pressure that avoidant attachment often struggles with. They begin seeing that connection does not have to mean losing independence. They begin understanding that love can exist alongside personal freedom and emotional safety. But it is important to remember that missing someone is not the same as being ready to love them properly. An avoidant ex may miss your presence while still avoiding the emotional work needed for a healthy relationship. They may remember your kindness, your support, and the comfort you brought into their life. But memories alone cannot create lasting change without personal growth and emotional responsibility. If they ever return, the most important thing is not whether they miss you. The important question is whether they have developed the ability to communicate and stay emotionally present. A reunion without change can simply recreate the same painful cycle again. You deserve more than temporary affection followed by repeated emotional distance. You deserve someone who can appreciate closeness without constantly running away from it. The strongest thing you can do after rejection is choose yourself without becoming bitter. You can still care about someone while accepting that their choices are their responsibility. You can wish them healing while continuing to build a peaceful life without them. This emotional maturity is something many avoidant individuals secretly admire because it represents security. They may realize that the person they pushed away was not demanding perfection, only genuine connection. They may begin understanding that your love was not the problem they believed it was. The real challenge was their own relationship with vulnerability and emotional closeness. Sometimes losing access to your constant presence forces people to recognize what they took for granted. When you are always available, someone may not fully understand your value because your presence feels guaranteed. But when you step away peacefully, they experience the reality of your absence. They begin noticing the emotional space that exists when your support is no longer automatically available. However, your goal should never be to become valuable by becoming unavailable. Your value was always there, whether they recognized it or not. The greatest transformation happens when you stop measuring your worth through someone else's reaction. You stop asking, "Will they come back?" and start asking, "Am I becoming the person I want to be?" That shift changes everything, because your life is no longer controlled by someone else's emotional decisions. An avoidant ex may return when they realize your energy has changed and your confidence has grown. But even if they return, they must meet you at a healthier emotional level. You cannot build a secure relationship with someone who refuses to face their own fears. Love requires two people who are willing to show up, communicate, and grow together. So after an avoidant rejects you, the most powerful thing you can do is not chase them. Do not beg them to see your worth, because the right person will recognize it naturally. Do not abandon yourself trying to prove that you are enough. Instead, become the person who feels complete, whether they return or not. Because the deepest lesson after rejection is realizing that losing someone does not mean losing yourself. Sometimes the person who walks away needs distance to understand what they truly had. Sometimes they return with greater awareness and a willingness to build something healthier. And sometimes they do not return, but your healing creates a better future than you imagined. The thing every avoidant ex secretly wants after rejecting you is not endless chasing or emotional desperation. They want to know whether you can love them while still standing firmly in your own strength. Because emotional security creates the safety that pressure never could. Your peace, your growth, and your confidence become the strongest message you could ever send. And whether they come back or continue their own journey, you become someone who no longer needs another person's choice to define your worth.